And you're welcome to Marketplace, the program that looks at the top business issues and all those issues. Now, we understand that government has finally decided to extend the IMF program to December 2018. Now, what we appreciate, what we are picking up, that this was one of the critical conditions the government had to undertake before the IMF board actually meets to review the whole program. We understand that the board is actually meeting currently in Washington, D.C., but what could be the implications of this whole extension? Could it be a good thing for us? And would Ghana indeed come out of this board meeting successful? And what could be the implications for the entire economy? The following Business Text report has more.
For those who have been closely monitoring the program, Ghana would pass the IMF board test, paving the way for the release of some $116 million to support the country's import and export needs. Analysts will be looking forward to what the board would be saying about how the economy has been managed by this government and are there any threats to the economy. Also, they will seek some insight on why the program was continued despite previous denials, and what might have changed their stance at the last minute, and whether it could end up with some credibility issues for the government. Again, is the fund satisfied with the measures taken by the Bank of Ghana to stabilize the banking sector, or more banks should go down? Well, for some, this meeting might give some stamp of approval to government's policies and show that it is committed to stabilizing the economy, a development that could consolidate investor confidence in the economy.
And that was a brief report about this whole IMF program and its implications for the economy. So we've been engaging some analysts on this particular issue. What does it mean for us? Let's look at this clip or this interview we had a while ago with Professor Peter Korte, University of Ghana. So, Prof, let me first ask you, what do you make of the decision to actually extend the program?
Well, I think it's something we've discussed in the past, and I think the extension is well in order in the sense that we are gradually seeing some stability, and therefore the need to extend the program so we're able to ensure that we achieve the level of stability that is desired. Because, mind you, we went for this program because we have lost credibility, and we have to ensure that we are at a level where credibility is actually restored. Then we can exit the program honorably.
Mm-hmm. And you think that it's a prudent thing, right?
Very prudent thing. It's a very prudent thing. It comes with a cost to do. Ideally, if we had been able to put our house in order, we didn't need to extend the program, but now we are gradually showing signs of being able to manage our affairs. So let's see for the next 12 months or so how well we're able to do this.
Originally, it should have been in April 2018. What could be the additional cost with respect to this extension to the economy, or even to someone like me, some would say?
Well, it could be a cost if we are unable to grow the real sector. Because one of the conditionalities of the IMF program is to ensure that there's a net freeze on employment. But if we're able to grow the real sector, this wouldn't be a challenge. We can always increase employment. We can always spend, provided we're able to raise the needed resources. So it depends on how well we manage our resources.
Let's also look at this other bit as well. I mean, one would say that could there be some credibility issues or investor concerns for government, because there was lots of conflicting statements. We will extend, we are not going to extend, and all those things. Now, finally, it has been done.
Yeah, I think there's also pressure from the general public because, you know, this conditionalities, this IMF programs comes with some job losses. It comes with some freeze on employment, net freeze on employment. So there's that agitation. The trade union and many others would not want a country to go into an IMF program. And besides, every country would like to own its own destiny. It would like to run its own affairs. No country likes to be controlled or dictated to or shown what to do. But since we have not been able to manage this very well, I believe the second best option is for us to go in for this program.
But do you think that there will be any issues, credibility issues as well?
You mean to extend?
Yeah, but we said that we're not going to extend, and now we've extended it. I mean, do I believe those who are managing the space when all these conflicting statements came up?
Yes, it's unfortunate we have conflicting statements. Ideally, we should be speaking with one voice. People in government should be speaking with one voice. So, well, it's a lesson that I believe they've learned. Oftentimes, it is ideal that they decide on what to do and come up with a common statement. Perhaps there is some misunderstanding or miscommunication somewhere that led to this conflict. But I believe moving forward, having a common voice is better. Otherwise, it will certainly affect credibility, because once somebody is saying something, the other person is saying the other, it doesn't augur well for good business.
Let's look at the board meeting proper itself. For you, what is your expectation? Do you believe that will come out successfully? The board which is going to happen, it's happening right now maybe in Washington, D.C.
I believe so. I think now we've shown signs of addressing some of the inherent challenges or weaknesses. We've seen signs, attempts at exposing or dealing with corruption. We've seen signs of growing the economy. We've seen signs of stabilizing the exchange rate. We've seen signs of inflation being stabilized. So, in my view, the board would look into all of this and also look at even the deficit targets that have been set and how we are meeting them. And in all this, I believe the country has more positives than negatives to warrant any adverse decision.
Do you think that our biggest challenge post an exit of an IMF program will be how we really manage things? Or how should we manage things so that at the end of the day, it will come out that indeed we were able or we could have done or managed things without the IMF?
Yeah, by the third to fourth quarter of 2018, we can see clearly where we are heading towards. We can see clearly whether an exit of the IMF program will be prudent or not. But from where I sit and some of the things I'm seeing now, if we continue on that trajectory, I believe by the last quarter of 2018, we'll have cause to exit the program.
And that was Professor Peter Cortes, the head of the Economics Department at University of Ghana, Legon, sharing his views and thoughts about government decision to extend the IMF program, as well as the executive board meeting that is ongoing in Washington, D.C. to look at how government is actually, or government fed for or under this particular program. But many of us will be looking forward to see what the IMF staff would say about the economy, how government have managed things, and also whether they'll be asking for more thanks to the Bank of Ghana stamping its authority in the banking sector. Let's do some issues relating to cocoa and also halting of trading of shares of cocoa processing company. Now, that is what the Ghana Stock Exchange has done. From today, they cannot trade in their shares. But for many people, it's brought again to highlight the current challenges that this company that produces your favorite golden tea chocolate has been going through. There is some analysis on this company in the following report.
The suspension in trading of shares of the company was influenced by its inability to meet some critical listing obligations like updating shareholders on its performance. But for many, is the company on the verge of collapsing, or is just one of those challenges that every manufacturing firm goes through at a point in time? Well, it looks like its published financial results might give us some answers. This is because the company for the second year running, that is from 2015, recorded a loss, with a March 2016 financial statement putting the figure at $5 million. Another critical thing that you want to look at is the amount of beans it processed, which has also gone down significantly over the last 2 years as the volumes produced also witnessed some decline. The company was recently forced to shut down its manufacturing plant for some few days, but for one of its major owners, that is Cocoa Board, the problem is not capital, as over the years several funds.
So, some people have criticized this whole move by the Ghana Stock Exchange to actually halt trading in shares of some of these listed entities. Well, a former boss of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Dr. Edwin Anyenchi, has some views on these developments.
The law has provided so many things. It places responsibility on everyone in the industry. And if all of us will make sure that we are up to the requirement of the law, I think we wouldn't have problems. It's not a delisting, it's a suspension of their listing, which means if you have a problem and you are not resolving it, most of the time the investors should know what is happening. So if you are not making your records, your accounts available, you are not performing the listing requirements that you are supposed to comply with, and then they say, let's let you get suspended, but when you have resolved the issues, we bring you back. And I'm happy, just today we've heard that 2 of them have complied and they have been reinstated. We are believing and hoping that the rest will also follow.
By suspension, the best way forward to get them on the
Well, you see, if we are not complying with the rules of any club, I think that calls for you to be suspended, because the rule is clear. What you do, that requires you to be suspended. And if you have done that and they are applying the rules.
So it might be a good time to also get some tips that can empower you when it comes to investment issues.
Investment Tips is brought to you by Daffing Finance, Deposits, Investments, Borrowings and Advisory.
The modified life cycle and investing. This likelihood may lead to the savings. This is reality. Should encourage investing enough for your retirement years. Remember also, you're likely to need 80% of your income prior to retirement, in retirement.
Investment Tips was brought to you by Daffing Finance, Deposits, Investments, Borrowings and Advisory.
And welcome to Marketplace after that small investment tips break. Now, it has emerged that Sudan Telecom, that is Sudatel, is not really the actual owner of Espresso. Now, we've been exploring more. We've been actually digging into this whole issue about the real owners of Espresso, and there's more in this report.
Call it the verdict by the National Communications Authority in its capacity as the industry regulator.
The verdict is
between the original owners of the company, Celtel, and Hutchison Telecoms. The deal supposed to have triggered this whole controversy over the company's ownership since the early 2000s. So, could this lend credence to suggestions that the deal was perhaps never consummated with the relevant documentation? After all, even though the 2 parties reportedly entered into a shareholder agreement for Hutchison to acquire 80% stake in the company and the remaining 20% retained for the original shareholders. This is because efforts to get copies of such documentation, if any, supposed to also be lodged at the relevant institutions such as the Registrar General's Department have so far proved futile. The NCA also revealed to Joy Business it has no documents on the company's ownership change to Setwell Limited, the entity supposed to have been used by Hutchison to acquire the company. The authority also noted it licensed Kasapa Telecom Limited to undertake mobile operations in Ghana on the 2nd of December 2004. Now, this was after the change in the company's name from Celtel to Kasapa in 2003, according to documents Joy Business secured from the Registrar General's Department. A new certificate of incorporation was issued to reflect this change, even though it bore the company's original registration number of 48782. The company regulations, that's the document that governs the company, however, remained in the name of Klugeson International Limited as the sole shareholder, with Prince Kofi Klugeson and Prince Kwame Klugeson as the directors. Could this, therefore, also suggest it was only a name change rather than an acquisition? Well, only time would tell.
And all too soon, we have to draw the curtain down for Marketplace, and catch us on Business Live as we bring you more details on a business van of one student who was actually into banking and finance and actually has to migrate into something else. I hope you want to watch it. All the best. Have a good afternoon.